Hello, everybody. This is the Empirical Audiophile. I had a couple people over from the Florida Audio Society, Central Florida Audio Society, and they are going to just give you a couple words on what they think about a new speaker that's coming out of Canada. It's called the Macaria, and it's by Maco. And this speaker just started being produced last year in June. They started sending out their orders for the particular dipole speaker that they are listening to. And I'm going to do a full review later. But for right now, I thought to give you a little insight of what audiophiles think about this particular speaker set up in my home. And I thought you would be interested in case you're thinking about maybe getting a dipole speaker, but because there's many of them out there. So let's get into this video of what they think about the speaker. But like I said, I will be coming up with a full review and tell you a lot more about the speaker in that review than in this particular video. Very first impression, just hearing it for the first time.
All right, well, for me, it's definitely dynamic. It does have a good solid bottom end, and it sounds very clean. The only thing that I was looking for is if there was any shimmer or any type of higher frequency. But at least in that first track, I don't know if it just didn't exist or the speakers weren't playing it.
Doesn't exist.
That's the only piece that I was kind of looking for in that particular song that I didn't see. So, that'd be the first impression. Be curious on other songs.
Oh yeah, I'll play you one. Yeah, you
like
can't
a
have
hi-hat or just something that's a little bit higher frequency.
I'll play you something.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I agree. The bottom end's good. The dynamics are great. Some of the imaging kind of gets a little smeared, maybe because it's so loud. Although I play my music is loud, but other than that, it sounds fine. Well, when I first listened to them, the images, because as a sound stage, you hear the different instruments coming from different positions. It kind of they overlapped in a way that kind of smeared, but just adjusting the speakers out a little bit, everything came clear. The drummer, the drummer is usually to scale across the whole stereo spectrum most of the time, but the individual instruments and the placement stay the same through the whole song, unless the instrumentalists are moving on the stage, which I told you, like the Big Bad Voodoo, and but just that 1 inch made all the difference in the world. As far as there he was singing, and the bass was wonderful, and I like the fact that the bass is pronounced so well that you could the bass was coming from a point in space that you could hear. Lots of times you get pairs of subwoofers blaring out to the room, but
yeah, did you notice how tight the bass was?
Yes.
Did you notice that? With
Yeah.
these speakers, the bass is very tight in space. It's not muddy or it's not spread out or you can't make it out. Yeah, very has a defined
and so,
image.
I mean, it was very pleasing to listen to, and they play certainly as well as my speakers. I'd like to see what the costs are, because they actually sound good enough that I'd get them. I mean, just here, once I had it tuned so that I could hear like the voices coming from a pinpoint.
Yeah, you notice that too.
Yeah.
And I noticed that pinpoint imaging is like the horns. They got that pinpoint imaging. That's one thing I think people like about horn speakers, is they got pinpoint imaging. where I've always said you could almost throw a dart at them, you know, that kind of, right.
Yeah.
And these, I thought it was kind of funny because I never thought, unless you bought horns, that you would get that kind of pinpoint image, or very, very expensive speakers, you know, real expensive speakers.
I mean, mine weren't much more than these, and you know, they're all speakers, but those are pinpoint as well. But still, you know, you don't adjust them properly, and you don't get the results like I'm hearing here.
Right. So what do you feel about the high frequencies yourself? What did you feel about them without having a tweeter?
Oh, they're plenty good for me.
Yeah, they're plenty good for me too.
You know, now, you know, I was director of engineering at Universal Studios, and so you know, some of the we did a lot of multi-channel stuff, and certainly this rivals anything that we would do. But
yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
no, they're very good, very, very good. I was surprised because in my band back in right out of college, I had open baffle speakers that we were playing through to the crowd, and I built a hyperbolic ellipsoid reflector behind it coming out, and that enhanced it. And but you know, these are the only other speakers I've heard with open baffle, and they perform quite well. That's mainly the reason why I wanted to come over and hear them.
Right.
They don't disappoint.
Well, like I said, I think Maco, I think he put a lot of effort into that very expensive crossover. Like I showed you, the parts of that crossover are the same kind of parts you're going to have to buy with $750,000 speakers. So he went and got crossovers that most people will never own in their lifetime and made them for these baffle speakers. I think that's why you're getting the little details and stuff that you maybe on other speakers, or it couldn't produce it because the crossovers would muddy it up. That's what would happen.
Well, you know, it's hard to balance the crossovers, especially you know, if you've got a steep, a very lean crossover point, then the two build in the center. But is it accurate? Where you try and build a real steep, like a 12 dB, and but then you get dips or rises in the sound level at those frequencies.
Right, exactly.
And these come across very clean.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt that I can listen to them for hours, and they definitely weren't fatiguing.
Yeah.
Where that's what I think a big problem is with audiophiles. They buy speakers, and after a while, they start becoming fatiguing to them. You know, like I said, they do best with the Mac. The Conrad Johnson was just a little too much on the high end. It just covered up too much on the high end for some reason. And you would think the Conrad Johnson would be perfect, but it was just too much.
Well, those, you know, hearing them through your tube amp, they really sound good.
Yeah, that's a good tube amp though. That Unison Research, yeah, from Italy, the 845 Class A. And oh, I want to ask you another question. Did you ever feel at the 23 watts that you needed more watt? We played them loud. Did you ever feel you needed more power, more wattage? Did you hear any distortion, like it was running out of power for 23 watts?
No, not at all.
And this is a big room.
Yeah, they sound. I've got the McAllister tubes, and they sound quite like these do.
Do they? Well, that's pretty amazing since they don't cost nothing the price.
How much were those?
What, the speakers or
No,
the amp?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the amp's about $10,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a $10,000.
Yeah, it looks.
Because Unison Research makes a top of the line. This is in the top of the line. Their top of the line is 50,000. Then this
Wow.
is their second one, 10. Then after that, the line starts splitting up
Yeah.
too. But this is considered to be their top of the line. And I guess they never felt the need to go any better.
Yeah.
Unison Research.
I've heard backs, and I'd put them up against the back
Yeah,
sounding any day.
right. And I bought this right out of Florida, this particular amp. I got it Southern Florida, called him up. He ordered them, had a drop ship right here from Italy because he sells Unison Research. If you go online, for Florida, you'll find it, and he'll drop ship the amp right. But yeah, the amp, I did a review on it. It's a very good. They do all their own windings, Unison Research. So all the transformers, output transformers, all done in-house. They're not bought off the shelf. So they have a particular sound. They like to have the Italians like to have a musical, warm sound. And when I listen to these speakers, people say they had a warm sound. What I would say is they had a very romantic, detailed sound, is what I would call it. And some people would say it's a warm sound. I would say the speakers have a more romantic, detailed sound. The only reason I say that because sometimes you may buy a piece of gear and it just has that sound to it, like oh wow, this sounds good. You ever do that where you just say, man, is this? I did that with a VTL 300B. The Renaissance, remember that? He'll never make them again.
No.
But he had a 300B VTL Renaissance 300B. And that thing it just sounded so good to me. It was one of those amplifiers but he said he'll never do it again. He'll never make another one. Yeah. Because I asked, why doesn't he make that amp? It sounded so good. I guess it was too much trouble making it, or something like that. I heard some story why he won't do it again, another 300B like that. But that's what I meant. The speakers kind of almost have a romantic but very detailed, because you can really hear in the music little details that are kind of muddled or
that you don't hear in other speakers. That's
you don't hear on other speakers. You go like deep in the sound stage, you can hear these little sounds that I don't remember that sounding that way. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Well, some of the CDs I bought, the Latin jazz, when it plays, they've got all kinds of input that you can hear, and it all came through very clear.
Yeah.
Grisman with they're playing mandolins, and they've got their own particular sound, and it reproduced perfectly, and the different placements, much better. So,
how long have you been an audiophile, by the way?
Certainly for at least 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I bought my first audiophile amp, a Krell KSA 250. I have it to this day. In fact, it's a Class A, all the way up, pure Class A, and I hung on to it, and then for a solid state, the Bel Canto 1, which was a part of their $50,000 ensemble. Only it was housed with their preamp at the time, and then when they decided to break it out as an amplifier, and I bought it, and it sounds as good as the Krell, and the bass is every bit as good as the Krell, and McAllister too.
Yeah, the only thing I can contribute that far is this is Class A running at 23 watts continuously, where I felt and you felt 23 watts was more than enough power to, loud enough for this big room.
Oh yeah.
This is 25 feet by 30 feet by 12-foot ceilings.
Well, I mean, the 23 watts goes a lot further if the speakers are high enough on their resistance, or their ohmage. If it's down around 4, dropping to 2 ohms in the bottom register, tubes just won't put up with that.
No, they won't. You're right. Then you need solid state.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think a lot of people don't realize that. If the ohm reading starts dropping, then tubes don't like that.
Yeah.
But
And,
apparently it's not dropping like that, so it doesn't affect that
I
bottom
mean,
end.
well, of course, the multiple coils and series parallel hookups. These must be 8 ohms.
Yeah,
They're staying
it
around
is.
8 ohms.
It's 8 ohms with
Oh,
a
okay.
dual coil. Yeah, which this is the first time I ever seen a home speaker with dual coils. I've seen car speakers,
Oh, okay.
with dual, but I never saw a home speaker
Yeah.
that had it.
Yeah, I mean, in auto, they have to put out twice the sound pressure level because that's what the buyers want, and
Right.
a single voice coil won't do it, and well, it won't keep it in control because you're having to have long throw on your cones.
Yeah, and that's another thing I noticed. Uh, the speakers didn't seem to be labor intensive. They weren't hardly moving to produce what they. Did you notice that, or did you go up close to it? I noticed that
Oh,
they don't. Like some speakers, you see like a 7-inch or what. They're really moving. These barely even move to put out that sound pressure level.
oh yeah. Well, if you had a solid state amp, you would see them move.
Oh, you would see them move.
But of course, you'd be listening to it so loud that
Yeah,
it might be unbearable.
it might be. It's loud enough. I thought what we
Oh
were
yeah,
playing.
no. I mean,
Some of the music we were playing was starting to get in the high 80s and stuff. That's going into the 90s, peaking in the 90s. That's a little loud for me. Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, we were listening. Some of that got up to close to 80
yeah,
as an average level, with peaks around 85, 90.
right.
But no, and at those levels, there'd be no strain.
No,
Just
did you notice that? At those levels, it's very comfortable listening, no strain. Um, I thought it was pretty good myself. I'm surprised.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.